that shows the person that not only are you there to like get to know them, that you're interested in what they do, but you're also interested in learning, and you're also very humble, right? Those are things that is attractive when it comes to like networking, is that because then people will remember you.
Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Rennie. If you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning subscriber, welcome back. So as you can tell, this is not part one of the video, but this is part two. And in this video, we are going to be talking with Yinka about how to network for introverts. Yinka is someone who self-identifies as introverted, socially awkward, and shy. So you all had a lot of questions for her about how she has been able to be so successful in her career. And I even learned a lot from this conversation with her. It was getting very long, so as I said, I decided to cut it into part one and part two. If you haven't seen part one yet, please watch it up here. It will give you some background into Yinka, because I'm not going to do the intro again, but you'll see some background about Yinka if you watch that part one video. And you'll notice that the sound and the video is a little bit different than here. It was because I was in my old studio, so just bear with me. But I hope that you enjoy this. If you like content around financial literacy, career development, or lifestyle, please hit that like button and please hit that subscribe button so you can see more of my content. So let's get into the video with Yinka right now.
Hi everyone. So I'm Yinka. Like Rennie said, professional-wise, I am a marketing sites manager at KPMG Canada. Ooh. So very similar. If I have to kind of like say, okay, what do I do? I'm a data scientist, but the fancy title is the market insights manager. On the side, I own a web design company. So I'm a web designer on the side.
And she makes beautiful websites. I'll leave that in the description box. How many go-to questions that you have in your back pocket?
Two. One is that I ask them like, oh, what do you do? You know, after I've asked all, never start with what do you do now? Yeah. Right? After I've asked like, the usual introduction question, but like, oh, what do you do? Mm-hmm. Right? And then they tell me this is what they do. Mm-hmm. If you notice, I said, what do you do, not which company do you work at? Yeah. Right? Yeah. So that way they would tell you this is what I do. They'll tell you experiences. They'll tell you all these things. And then from that question, like from that answer, pick something, right? If they tell you they do X, Y, Z, just pick one of those things and be like, oh, that's so interesting. Can you tell me a little bit more about this? So now you dive into the question. So it doesn't just look like you're just reciting like standard questions, right?
Which happens a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I think after the what do you do is like, another question I ask is that what do you love about what do you do? I don't even ask about the company at all. Mm-hmm. Like I always ask them like, what do you love about what you do? And then if they're really passionate about what they do, they will just gush about what they do.
Go on and on.
And they will go on and on and on. And then you start asking like rounding off questions like, oh, this is so cool. Well, I'm very interested in this also. What advice would you give me? Right? So that way, people, like I said, people love to talk about themselves, but also people also love to give advice. Most of them are unsolicited, but they also love to give advice. So by you saying like, oh, I'd really love to do this, what advice would you give me? So that's one of the questions I always ask, like, what advice would you give me? Or like how would you point me in the right direction? Like what resources, what advice? So that shows the person that not only are you there to like get to know them, that you're interested in what they do, but you're also interested in learning, and you're also very humble, right? Those are things that is attractive when it comes to like networking, is that because then people will remember you. And I think also when you connect with them after, I'm jumping the question you asked for questions, but after you connect with them, also send them like, hey, thank you for, I met you at here, XYZ. Thank you so much. I really love that you did this. And I'd love to stay in touch. Don't just like send them and like connection.
Please. This is so, I really want to emphasize this because, for example, when I go to networking, I went as a recruit, even though I wasn't a recruiter, I would go like to student events, for example, and then I would get like 20 connection requests, and I'm like, I don't remember you guys, to be honest. I only remembered the ones who were like, hey, we spoke about this, and this. So yeah, personalizing that connection request is very important.
I agree. Yeah. So yeah, personalize it. I know you have like some characters and limiting your character, but like I said, like always try to pick points of what the person talks about, and then just say thank you so much. I'd love to connect with you, and then you can follow up the conversation from there.
I guess this kind of builds on it, but how do you maintain the relationship with the person that you connected with?
When it comes to when you connect with people, especially when you go to a big networking event, is that you're not gonna like be able to continue the conversation with everybody. Like, it's impossible. So don't feel bad, like, oh my god, I can't. Don't feel bad. You're not gonna be able to do it. Like, it's just impossible.
Yeah.
One key thing is that you need to think about like where you're going, what you want to do, right? And try to kind of prioritize those people that will help you, or you feel like they will help you along that journey. So prioritize like making the connection with those type of people. And if it doesn't work out, it's okay, right? If they don't respond, it's okay, right? So I always say like pick top 5. Like I always say, like pick 5 people, and then just remember, you're right. When you were at that event, you wrote down some things, right? And then after you say thank you for connecting, by the way, I have a few questions. You list out the questions, right? And then you say, I'd really love to get your take or your answers on it, but I understand that you're busy. If not, that's totally fine too. And don't just say, oh, I want to set up 30 minutes of your time. Like, bruh. I got like 80 connection and you're asking. So their time is very, very valuable. You can just say something like, you can answer it here. I'd really love if we can set up maybe a 10 to 15 minutes connect. If not, that's totally fine too. I'm okay with you just answering here. But thanks again. Right? That's it. So don't just go with like, oh, I need your time. Like, no.
No.
Right?
Big no.
And so just try to follow up with like questions. And these are questions not just like, tell me about yourself. Like, not just something like extremely open-ended. Questions that are very targeted. Right? Questions that just sounds like, you actually did your research. You didn't just copy and paste questions in there.
Yes. And I agree with 100% with what you're saying. And I also want to build on it by saying, if you're connecting with like a speaker, for example, who just told you their whole life story in their speech, and then your question to them is, just as you said, tell me about yourself. Like if I was that speaker, I'd be like, you clearly weren't listening to anything that I said. So as Yinka said, like make sure you have questions that are very directed, and writing those questions in the chat makes me feel like if I was the person you were connecting with, it's like, oh, this person actually prepared for this. Like, I'm willing to have this 15-minute coffee chat because I know they're not going to waste my time. I'm like someone who's like, hey, can we connect? Let's have coffee or something. It's like, no, because this is rude. The way you're approaching is not it.
Again, it's a lot easier to get coffee chats. That's why you should network with people like in your caliber, like in your circle. Because it's a lot easier to connect with those type of people, right? They're also out there, right? They're most likely to accept the coffee chat.
Very true.
Rather than managers or CEOs or whatever. They're most likely to like accept the coffee chat. And I think with regard to like CEOs, speakers, influencers, is just follow them, right? I think the easiest way to keep in touch with those people is follow them on LinkedIn, on whatever the social channels is, and make meaningful comments. Right? Don't just say like so don't just make like, oh, congratulations, blah blah blah. Like, no. Make meaningful comments. Wow, this is so interesting. Thank you so much for sharing. I can't wait to read the article. Or you actually read the article, right? And then put like, wow, I really love this point, blah, blah, blah. Because what's going to happen is like, they'll remember you, right? They'll remember like, oh my goodness, this person always comments.
This is honestly, like, speaking as somebody who gets these messages all the time, this is so true. Like, people who reach out to me, but then they comment on my post and they're like, wow, I just learned this from you. I'm so excited. I'm like, yeah, wow. Like, I remember their name. Like, I promise you, I remember all of their names because I'm like, you guys took the time to actually engage in my or like read my content or watch my video, and you actually took the time to comment. Like, it stands out above, and so that's a really good. It does, and it's low effort on your part. The next question that we had was, have you ever felt that most of the people you interact with are high energy, and they think you're rude or not fun if you are low energy?
So I'm the type of person whereby if I find like somebody's very high energy, like they just has so much energy, like, they're the life of the party, describing something, I'm just like, yeah, this one likes to talk about itself. Okay, bye. Like I just move, right? That's just not for me, right?
Conserve your energy.
It's just I just feel like they're sucking also my energy, and there's nothing wrong, right? That's who they are. I think just be yourself, right? If you're yourself, you'll attract the right energy, and it's not just you just attract introverts like you. You also there are some extroverts that, and I think that's one of the great thing I love about being on this part of the world is that people understand that introverts and extroverts, right? Extroverts now know that they're introverts, and introverts also know about extroverts. So there's some extroverts that they're they have that emotional intelligence, for the lack of a better word, that they can see that okay, this person's an introvert.
Some,
right?
Not all. Some people realize. Not all have.
So they can sense your personality right away, and they will adjust. If they're really there to meet people, not just meet their kind, they will adjust to you. And so I think don't just have it in your mind that oh my goodness, like this person thinks I'm rude. Even if they think you're rude, it's okay. It's a networking event. There are tons of people to meet, right? Exactly. So just be yourself. Obviously, don't be like rude, obviously. But just be yourself, be nice, be kind, and be genuinely there to connect with people. And I think if you do that, then you should be able to avoid the whole, oh, this person thinks I'm rude. This person doesn't think I'm rude. So you're not being rude, right? You're not being rude. And if it feels like the person is thinking you're rude, if I'm in that situation, I'd be like, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm not doing this to be rude. I will apologize, something like that. Just be sincere. And if they still think you're rude, like, psh, bye.
It is what it is.
Like, you can't. Well, I mean, you're there to meet people.
Yeah.
You're not going to be everybody's best friend, right? You're just there to make connections. So,
very true. Yeah. And one thing I do, I feel like maybe I'm an introvert now listening to this, but like one thing that I do is people also suck my energy when I'm out at networking events. So what I'll do is if I see someone who's also alone, I will walk up to them and speak to them. Just like instead of trying to join a huge group, I'll just walk to somebody who's alone. And I think that really helps me. It's like a slow entry, like
it is.
And then people may join us, but then at least I've made that one connection with somebody, and then doesn't require as much energy to be put out.
And just to add to what Reddy just said is that extroverts, if you're listening, if you see somebody that's like kind of like muted and shy, invite them into the conversation, right? Because sometimes when you're an introvert, you're like, oh my god, how do I enter this big group? If you're an extrovert, be like, hey, how are you? Invite them in, because when they see that you invite them in, they will open up a little bit more. And I agree, if you're an introvert, right? If you see that there's somebody on their own, just go and introduce yourself like, hey, this is who I am. Hey, my name is XYZ. How are you? How did you find out about this event? And like Reddy said, other people will also join you. And when you see people joining you, make room, right? Yes. And then you guys start building it, and you guys start talking. And I don't think introverts do this a lot, but like, don't make everything about yourself. Make sure that especially when you're a group that's building, try to like bring people into the conversation. If it's just the two people talking, look aside and think, oh, by the way, what do you think? Right? By the way, what do you think? So it's not just two people talking and everybody was just like looking, right?
Yes.
Invite people into the conversation like, oh my goodness, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And that's how you're able to like bring more people to the conversation.
And I think that's a level of emotional intelligence that a lot of people don't have. One thing I always try to do in a conversation, I'll say, oh, we haven't heard from this person yet. Do you have any thoughts on that? And it makes a huge difference. People will also remember you. This is for the extroverts, but people will also remember you if you like invite them into a conversation, because it makes them feel more welcome.
Agreed.
And the last question is just, how can I show up as confident even though I'm quiet and reserved?
This is a very good question. I think being prepared. You can't be too prepared, but be prepared. As in, like, if you're going for a networking event, right? Read a little bit more about it. Read about the organization that, that's hosting the networking event. Read about the speakers. Just, like, prepare. That's what I mean in terms of prepare. I'm not saying you should, like, write down the script of what you're going to talk about. And that doesn't, if that helps you, do that too. I think being prepared, because if you're prepared, that confidence just exudes, right? You don't have to fake it. And then if they see that okay, well, this person's actually prepared, or this person actually knows about this event. And there's nothing wrong. Sometimes you may even just find out about the event like 2 hours before.
Mm-hmm.
But like, just I think that having some sort of level of preparation always helps. And I think that's it. Like, just be yourself, smile, try and push yourself. Don't over push yourself, but push yourself, and you just find like, oh, this is not that bad.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I don't really have anything to say like, oh, this is how you become confident.
Yeah.
I think just always being that authentic self, that will always go a long way.
And the way they phrased the question was like, how can I show up as confident even though I'm quiet and reserved? I feel like you're maybe also shift your mindset and like think that you can be quiet and reserved and also be confident. Like you don't have to change yourself in order to be confident. I think you said that a lot by like show up authentically, but like, yeah, maybe a rework of your mindset would be helpful as well.
Yeah, I agree. Like, you don't need to do something to be confident. It's just something you exude, and that's by you just being yourself. Yeah, right?
Show up fully as who you are. And I really like what you said about being prepared, because especially when it comes to online or virtual meetings, I think it's so easy to be prepared because you can have your notes on your screen. That's what I do. Even though I'm an extrovert, like I have my notes on my screen and I'm like, okay, these are the questions I want to ask. I don't ask them like back to back to back to back, but like if the conversation has gone dead or something, I'm like, okay, I have another question that is there, and it just helps me feel more confident going in because I know that like there's some, like if I mess up, there's something backing me, you know. So yeah, come prepared.
Yeah, and one thing that you also said, just what you said, is that avoid staring at your phone. I know that's kind of like especially if you're an introvert, right? And you're like, oh my god, I don't know what to say, I don't want to say, and you start looking at your phone, right? Avoid that if possible. Like, put your phone maybe in your back pocket or something, so that it's not something you always reach out to, right? Avoid looking at your phone, because by you, again, that can maybe come off a little bit like you weren't really there to network. So if you're feeling nervous, if you just feel that nerves coming, maybe, take a break, leave the room a little bit, go to the restroom and just, decharge a little bit, distress a little bit, and then come back in. But avoid using or playing around with your phone.
Perfect. Well, everyone, I hope this was helpful. I learned so much, even though I don't consider myself really to be an introvert. So thank you, Yinka, for coming on my channel.
You're welcome.
It was very helpful for me, and I hope it was helpful for all of you. And do you want to plug anything, your business maybe again, so that people can reach out to you if they need you?
For sure. So the best way to reach me is LinkedIn. You can just Google my name, my full name. You can also connect with me on my business page, Quant by Design. So all my handles, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. I'm mostly active on Instagram. We're back. So I'm mostly active on Instagram. So connect with me, Quant by Design.
Okay. And I'll leave all of those in the description box below. So thank you once again, and have a great day, everyone. Bye.